Hello! Welcome to the Jericho Comedy Podcast. We're the multi-award-winning comedy club Jericho Comedy, and in our podcast we connect our super audiences with our kick-ass acts. I'm Connor McReynolds. This week I'm chatting to Huge Davies. Huge is fantastic. You'll have seen him at Jericho Comedy with his keyboard strapped around his neck. He's hysterically funny, and since last year's nomination for Best Newcomer at the Edinburgh Fringe, Huge is going from strength to strength, with several TV appearances on Comedy Central, Dave and Channel 4. Later you'll hear a set recorded live at Jericho Comedy, and we'll be playing you a message from our lovely charity partner Oxfordshire Mind. But first, here is the brilliant Huge Davies. Huge, how are you?
Hi Connor, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good to speak to you, mate. I'm very well, thank you. Very, very grateful that you've taken the time to speak to us in the Jericho Comedy Podcast.
It's an honour. You know what? As soon as I said that, I was like, I didn't mean that. I have a lot of free time, Connor. That's the truth of it.
Well, I mean, it would be ridiculous for me not to start with asking you how your lockdown has been. Have you been involved with like many of the like online and Zoom gigs and stuff, or have you just been in your own space for a while?
I've sort of both. I think you can be both. If a Zoom gig takes 1 hour and the rest of your day is free, you've done both. You've done both. I think
that's so true.
I think yeah. I've been doing some online gigs. Some of them really cool. I did Kerry Pritchard's McLean's one, which is like the COVID one.
Oh, awesome! The COVID arms.
Yeah,
one.
the COVID arms one. They've raised over like $100,000 over
That's crazy.
That's
yeah.
crazy. And
so good.
That's nuts. I don't think It's nuts that a normal comedy night couldn't raise that much money for their comedians. And like, if you gave a comedy club 50 years, they wouldn't be able to raise that much money for just the comedians. Yeah. It's really cool. That's really cool. And then I've done a few others and stuff. I've done a few radio shows, and I recorded a podcast with BBC, but that's not out yet. With Olga.
Oh, that's very exciting. What's that? Are you allowed to tell us what
I don't know
about?
if we're allowed to say, but we've got it's like, I don't think, I'll discuss it, you probably cut this out later, but it's a spin-off of the MASH report, but
Oh, awesome.
Yes, I mean, Olga hosts this other show, which is like the MASH report for technology. It's like technology news. But it's like...
Oh, that's so cool.
They couldn't put it in a TV show because it didn't really fit, so they were like, let's just make it into a podcast. But that's what I was...
Oh, what a dream team as well, you and Olga. Who else were you working with on it?
Just like various just some vocal artists, like Freya Parker from Lazy Susan was doing some additional voices. We just had like a bunch of different random people come in and doing little parts and stuff, but it's mainly me and Olga. And
that's really cool, man.
Yeah, it was good fun. But we were recording that last week, so that was fun to actually go out and do something. Got a few things sorted in the future too. So like it just depends when everything comes back, you know.
Yeah, of course. Have you been out to do any kind of live gigs in front of an audience again?
No, I have. I'm doing one for the Save Life Comedy at the Clapham Grand.
Oh yeah.
But I thought that was live, but it's still virtual. You can get a virtual seat. But I've not.
Oh, I see.
I've not as yet performed in front of anyone yet.
You've not seen the whites of anyone's eyes?
No, I've not seen the disappointment up close. I've just heard it. I've just heard it in the microphones. Fuck.
Well, what about, have you been doing much writing and stuff over lockdown? Has it been a kind of useful sort of enforced creative sabbatical type thing, or?
Yeah, I've been doing some writing because I do some writing just for some other like some YouTube channels I write for anyway. So like,
cool,
I've been doing that anyway, and then I think like my agent's been always like, you should write, just like you should write that TV show you've always been thinking about doing. And I'm like, if I watch one more TV show, I'm gonna kill myself. Like this is the worst time to be writing for TV. Everyone's like, can we not watch TV anymore? I'm like, I would rather do anything than watch TV. And I'm like, what TV could we watch? I'm like, I've seen everything.
Have you completed Netflix at this stage?
For sure. I've seen definitely like the best there is to offer of television. You know, when you're like, someone recommends you a show and you're like, yeah, I'll put that aside for some time. You're like, the time's come.
You're now moving on to like the C list of programs.
Yeah, and people are like, have you seen Breaking Bad? I was like, yeah, of course I've seen Breaking Bad. What you need to get into is a Japanese show where they do karaoke whilst they're being wanked off. It's like, yeah. That's the kind of... That's a real show that exists, by the way. It's good stuff.
No.
Yeah, you can watch it. There's definitely clips of it on YouTube. There's like, it's like they're getting wanked off by like some poor woman who's like being enrolled into this. You can't see anything. They're like under a curtain, and they're like,
oh my god,
they're just watching this screen trying to do it, and they're just getting wanked off by someone. It's I don't know if it's good television or bad television, but like,
I'm assuming it's ITV2.
It's their equivalent of ITV2, yeah, for sure.
Oh my god.
It's +1 as well, yeah, for sure.
Well, there we go. For the British reboot, I think we just found our host for that show. That's very much your vibe, Hugh.
Yeah,
everybody's always saying it, you know.
That's the sort of thing I'd host. I'd turn down a lot of things to host that.
Oh, I mean, obviously it's weird talking to you in August with no Fringe. Like last year, such a huge year for you with the Best Newcomer nomination. How had it changed things for you? And then has it been kind of frustrating for that momentum to sort of temporarily pause, or?
Yeah, it's kind of okay. Like, I think it's fine. I think that awards and actually stuff like that don't actually mean anything. So like you can have an award or a nomination or whatever, and things can still like not go your way. Like it actually doesn't mean anything. So like there's loads of people, and if you go through the past of all the people that have been nominated for all these awards, or even like, you know, like newcomer award kind of things, or, you know, like competition things.
Yeah.
Actually none of it is actually relevant at all. There are so many comedians who've never been nominated for anything and are just like so crazy successful that you just wouldn't believe that they hadn't won anything. Or so I just think that like it was nice to get nominated, but actually ultimately doesn't mean anything. In terms of
very
like
zen way of talking about it. I'd have been giddy with excitement, but you seem to be taking it in your stride.
No, definitely. Like there's no way. Like I think from I think like part of it is comedy is like knowing that it's impossible to be as successful as the most successful comedian, I guess. So like you've got to be like, what? It's such a lonely job, and he's such like a difficult job to like thrive in, that you just really got to like take a look at yourself and be like, what actually makes you, what how do you keep yourself happy? And it's like, if you want to be happy by looking at reviews or by getting nominated for awards, then you're going to be unhappy. Like you're just not going to you're just going to be miserable, because you probably will get nominated for an award once, and when that dies down in like a year's time, it's like, if you just keep looking for awards and stuff, you're not going to have a good time. So I just think that like the best way to make yourself happy is to just do a good job for yourself, and then you'll be happy. But like I think I guess that has been frustrating in the sense that like I have not been able to like carry on working, which is like the most annoying thing. For like I don't know, for if you were just like I was just excited to work, and lots of things got cancelled. Like I was about to go to Melbourne a week before, a week after lockdown and stuff. I was going to go to Melbourne, go to do a little tour of Melbourne.
Would that have been your first experience of the comedy festival out there?
Yeah, for sure. I was really excited for it, and yeah, that's annoying. But I guess like, you know, the positives is like I don't have a family to look after.
True.
I don't have, you know, like a lot of other problems that other people are having. So like it's kind of fine. Like in terms of like the answer is yes, I'm disappointed about everything, but like I'm also happy that like I'm having a good time. Like I always wanted a holiday that lasted about a year.
Yeah.
So I'm having a holiday that lasts about a year. So like it's cool. It's okay. It's fine.
What is it that you're kind of like missing most about Edinburgh this year? Is it kind of the social aspect of it, or do you just really miss like?
Definitely the
Because
social
last year was your
aspects.
debut show, wasn't it? The car park was your debut hour.
Yeah, I mean, last year, I'm never going to have a year as good as last year, I think, to be honest, if I'm really honest with myself. Like, it was just really good, and I was, like, in a really good place,
Yeah.
like, mentally for it. So, like, it wasn't like previous years where I was, like, worrying about anything. I think I didn't think the show was going to do well, so I just really invested in making it really fun. And then I was having so much fun doing it that like nothing else was a problem. So I was just I was really enjoying myself, and but I think maybe the next years will be difficult because everyone's going to be like, what will this person do next or whatever.
Oh, you kind of think
And
like
I'm just
the
like,
expectations will be higher.
yeah, but I still don't think that would, maybe it wouldn't get to me. I don't know. I'm not really there yet, but I think
You
that
seem pretty chill about it all. Like your philosophy of just kind of doing stuff that feels good for you, and so long as you're having a good time.
was
I think
100.
so long as you carry that attitude through, then hopefully it kind of
Yeah,
can't go wrong. If you're enjoying yourself, then you
yeah,
sort of seem to have it cracked.
definitely. I think that yeah, it's so difficult to be happy in comedy. Like I think
Yeah.
you've really got to. There's no one in your team basically, and the end of the day, like if you left comedy, like no one would do it. Like no one would say anything. Like no one would care. Like you're the only person who's, even if you have like an agent or whatever, like of course they're going to back you, whatever, or like producers are going to back you. But as soon as you like, you're pretty much on your own for most of it. You really have to back yourself. So if it's a stressful thing, you've just got to like really
Yeah.
just be like, what makes me like what's enjoyable about comedy is like, well, it's the only place I get to like truly just like do what I want. So you might as well just do what you want, and then if you end up doing something that you think other people want from you and people like it, even then you're going to have to be like, well, shit, I'm going to have to make content that I don't even know, like I don't even like making, if people want more of that from me. So like
Yeah,
the best
yeah.
thing to do is just to like do your own thing, and then if people hate it, then you're like, well, I thought it was pretty funny. Like
Yeah, yeah.
so like not
That's a really balanced view of it all. I don't think I've spoken to anybody on the podcast yet who's sort of been that frank about how the sort of the slightly negative sides of a career in comedy. When did you know that this was something you wanted to do, despite all of the kind of pitfalls and I guess the sometimes the loneliness of it? It's a lot of travel, a lot of going around, being on your
yeah.
own. And
Well, I think when you
when did you realize you wanted to do it?
oh well, I think it's because when you first start doing it, it's not really like that. You don't go traveling a lot. You just do the London open mics. I think that's because I wasn't really in a part of community, and then you sort of do it, and then you meet you meet other comedians and stuff, and it's like it's fun. It's fun. It makes you feel cool to do comedy. To be honest, like when you first start doing
Yeah.
it, because it's like, and also like I think I'm quite a creative person. Like I hadn't really found a way of like expressing that creativity. I think to like, I mean, I can play piano and stuff, but it wasn't. It's always like it's not really like, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't really fully invested in that as a skill, maybe. But like, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well, tell me about like when did you start playing the piano, and when did kind of comedy and piano sort of merge? Were you doing comedy without music first, or
so
were they always
so I've
kind
never
of hand
done
in
comedy
hand?
without piano.
Right.
I've done stand up once without piano.
How did that feel?
Really weird. Also, it was very high pressure. It was a gig called uh it's the what's it called when they you you go up on stage and they've got like
Oh, like a gong show type thing. King Gong, was it?
no,
Or something
it's the
like that.
one on YouTube. It's you go up and there's a screen and then you have to do stand up whatever's on the screen.
Oh, set
Oh
list.
yes, I did set list. That's the first time I did.
Oh man,
So that was like in front of a lot of people and a lot of
that's mad. That's for those who don't know. That's like improvised stand up.
yeah, yeah,
Am I right? Yeah. Like that's crazy.
yeah. It was the first time I'd ever held a microphone. Actually, like for like during a performance, I was
Oh my
like,
god.
I went on stage and then I was like holding it and I was like, that's actually heavy. I remember thinking I was like, that's actually heavier than I thought it was going to be, like the microphone. And I was like, what a mad thing to think at this point you're like on stage. I was like, also I was like, I was in between Daniel Sloss, who's really good at it,
Oh
and
my god.
Jared Christmas, who's like, I think he's like a veteran at set. Like he does it, like he does it for fun. Like
Yeah, yeah. That's mad.
yeah, and I was just like completely yeah. But that was I did actually really well to be honest, and I was pretty proud. Like I think that was the gig that I was most. It's probably my most rewarding gig I've ever done. Like
Why?
since the step from it was like the same sort of step from when you've never done a gig before and you do a gig for the first time and then you like
Yeah,
that
yeah.
level. It was like that because I think so often comedians because we're so focused on like writing jokes and like it gets all technical when you've been doing it for a while you like start to figure out there's patterns and things you can do and or like
Yeah,
jokes and
yeah.
stuff. It's really difficult. You forget that you have a good sense of humor. You're like, oh, like I started this because I thought I had like a good sense of humor and I thought people would enjoy that. And you forget that you're actually
Yeah.
naturally quite funny because even in things like panel shows or whatever it is, like you're always like you think you have tricks and stuff, but you're actually pretty funny. And because setlist takes everything away from you, it takes away all your jokes. It takes all your like any tricks you do, any callbacks you can do. When it's quite exposing because it's quite. I think the scariest thing is you go, well, if I'm not funny, maybe that means I'm not funny today. Means I'm not funny at all. So like
Oh god.
going
It sounds like a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
well, yeah, I guess that's the point. It's like, but I guess you sort of forget the format is that everyone knows that you don't have any jokes, so that is part of like the audience is supportive in the sense that they know you don't have any jokes, and it's funny that if you don't have any jokes, that's also funny. But I
Yeah.
guess it's because it's the first time an audience can ever like empathize with you because if you do stand up right and your jokes are bad, the audience go, well, I can do better than that. I can do a better joke than that. But if you do
Yeah,
improvised
yeah.
comedy, they're like, I wouldn't know what to do if that came up. So in a
Yeah,
way,
exactly.
it's like I think people are a bit more kind in those sort of things, even though it's obviously if you're doing it, it's really stressful. But if you like take a step back, you're like the audience come knowing that it's difficult, so they give you that leeway to
Yeah.
kind of make mistakes, whatever. I think I did very well, but it was like I didn't expect that I would do well, and it was quite important. I think it's quite an important gig for me. I really needed to have that gig because I think obviously in Edinburgh and stuff, when you're like feeling a bit like creatively dry sometimes, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's cool to have like you go like, oh, I actually have a good sense of humor, and if I just say something, the first thing that comes to my head normally is quite funny. I think that's
Yeah.
quite a cool
Do you
thing to
remember
like.
any of the jokes you
I
made?
literally don't remember anything from it because I was so nervous. I remember. No, I actually don't remember. I remember someone saying there was like the word apocalypse, and I hadn't thought of anything, and I just went, "I like. Does anyone like calypsos?" Because it kind of had, and then everyone thought that was really funny, and then I just kept talking about calypsos, clippos even, and then I was like, yeah, I don't know.
Oh, nice.
But like that's the sort of
That's nice.
thing.
Is it something you'd like to try again, do you think?
I think everyone should do it. I think it's really freeing, and I think it's really important to know that because I think, yeah, as I said before, it's like you can go so long without you know so many times you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like if you haven't thought. Often what happens with me is like I had a really good 5 minutes when I first started, and then I was doing
Hmm.
competitions or whatever. I was doing quite well in them, but I think I was after that. I was like, that's all you've got, man. Like you've got like one good joke, and I think that happens quite a lot. No matter what you do, if you have like, for example, me,
Yeah.
I had a good first show. I think doing a
And what
second show
about
is like, oh, you had one good show in you. I think that it's like you just need to remember that you're always going to be writing good joke. Like you've it came from you, And I think
Yeah.
everyone gets imposter syndrome because I don't know about you, but when I think of a good joke, I'm so surprised by it. I'm like, you thought of that? That's crazy.
Oh, man, my first thought, anytime I think of a joke I think is half good, I'm like, so where have I heard that?
Exactly.
There's no way that can be mine.
And
Yeah.
it's like it feels like an accident. It's like if you're walking somewhere and you find like a really cool place that you feel like no one's been around. You're like, did I just make this? And you're like, it's the same thing. And then you get imposter syndrome because you feel like all your jokes are accidents. And you're like, there's no way I can make like 60 accidents again. But it's like, it's okay. If you just like carry on living your life, you'll have like loads of brain accidents, which are funny. It's cool.
I'm really fascinated by what the writing process is. I spoke to a theater composer and writer, Paul Boyd, for another podcast that I do, The Dinner Party. Check it out. And Paul was talking about how when he writes a funny show, like a funny musical, he's essentially having to write two shows. You got to write the show, and then you got to make it funny all over again. Is that similar to what your process is, or does the music come first? Do the lyrics come first, or the idea come first?
No.
Or are you lucky enough to just kind of think of it all as a package at the same time?
I think that there's no way to write a show. I think that everyone writes it in their own way, and that's what makes shows really great. And I think that like you can see so many different shows, and you can see so many different types of shows, and that totally comes from everyone doing it in different ways. You can have like, I think it just comes down to like, you should just write a show the way, like, if you watch a show and then if you think of Fringes before or whatever, if you just see a comedy show wherever it is, and you come out and then you have it's your favorite show because you have that feeling when you come out of it, like, and the feeling is either like, oh, that was so heartfelt, or oh, that was so bonkers, or that was so stupid, and it just sticks in your head. I think if you really focus on that and you like for me, I think it was Sam Campbell's show. When I saw that, I came out of that, and I was just telling everyone how funny it was and how stupid it was, and I think I was like, that's the sort of show I want. I want people to say that about me. I want people to be like, I want people to leave with that experience of being like, oh, that was just so fun, and like, I just don't like, because I think there's so many shows that I like, but I think the shows that are really stupid and really silly are just my favourite kind. So I was like very early sat on being like, well, you're not going to write a show about how sad you are, even if you are sad. Like, that's not the sort of thing I want people to think of me. So I was like, well, I'm just going to write a silly show then. And then I was like, well, what makes a silly show a silly show? And it's like stupid jokes. And I was like, so I just wrote a bunch of stupid jokes. And because my stand-up is like stupid jokes anyway, I was like, well, people talk about, I think it's because in people's heads you have to, for stand-up shows, you have to have structure and arcs and that sort of thing, and like, a payoff at the end. I think people are quite intimidated by writing a show which is like basically just jokes, but there's ways in which you can create structure around jokes, the kind of jokes you tell or what you're talking about, there's structure in that. And I think that
sometimes as well, like, I think a show doesn't have to be about something. Like, when I was up in Edinburgh a couple of years ago, two of the funniest shows I think I've ever seen were like Felicity Ward. I think she was nominated the same year you were. That show, Bustin' a Nut, was not about anything. It was just like 60 minutes of just jokes. And David O'Doherty was the same thing. It wasn't a show about how he became a father or anything like that. It was just a show about jokes.
Yeah.
And it was so great. But then, like, I mean, on the other end of things, like, there's some amazing shows with really strong messages or personal stories or whatever. But yeah, I think you're right. Like, it just has to be about what you would like to see, create what you would like to see. And in your case, it sounds like it's jokes.
Yeah, I mean, also it's a long. If this show is successful, it's a long time you've got to be doing it. I'm still doing the show now. Like, I'm still got theatre dates booked in to do it, like Soho and stuff. But you're doing it for a real long time, and you've got to be really happy with it. And like, if you're doing something that's like, I mean, this is just me personally. If I was going to do a show that was really emotional about like something that was really heartfelt for me, I don't think I could do it for that long, man. Like, I just don't think I could revisit like painful memories for that long. So like I love doing the show because I think it's just really stupid, and
Yeah.
but like I guess everyone's different, and also people want to come see something different. They don't want to see like anything like they don't want to see like a normal show. So you should just do what kind of show you want to do, and then everyone will just see like a
And I think
different kind of show.
you achieve that so immediately anyway. Like from the second you walk onto stage, I think of like the times when I've seen you at Jericho Comedy, like walking through the cafe with your keyboard. It's already so strikingly different to anything else the audience have seen that night because like they're having a duck under your keyboard and stuff as you're walking to the stage. Like, were you aware of how strong like an aesthetic that was even at the beginning, strapping the keyboard around your neck?
No, I think because I did musical comedy before, and um, before it was strapped to me. So I've always done musical comedy. In
Yeah.
terms of like the only reason I did that was because it's less heavy than a regular
Right.
keyboard. Because if any musical comedians are listening, you'll know that you have to drag around a keyboard. You have to have a stand for it. You have to
Yeah, yeah.
often, if you don't want to stand, you got to bring a seat. I had to bring a seat to every single gig because
Oh, wow.
I can't stand up. I just don't like. I don't feel comfortable not standing up playing it. Often, if you do an open mic gigs, often they'll have the wrong kind of microphone stand, so the ones that don't bend. So you can't even
Yeah.
so you have to bring our own mic stand. So it's just all got too heavy, and it was starting to depress me doing like 5 minute slots at open mics because it was just so much effort to bring it there. So I just thought the only reason that exists is because it's really light and I could carry it all over the country. It never actually really occurred to me that it would look really stupid, which is like I guess why it's why it's yeah, and also like it's yeah. I don't think I could get away with the things I say in terms of my mannerisms. I'm extremely like kind of what's it called? It's like
Deadpan?
yeah, but it's what is it? It's like high status. That's what it
Oh,
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's really high status. I'm often like quite mean to people, but because I'm wearing the keyboard, I can get away with it because I just look so stupid. Like kind of the joke is that why would I be like? How can you take yourself so seriously? If you're
Yeah.
wearing
How
if you're
can you
wearing this
possibly think you're above me when you're stood on stage looking like that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I think it's particularly funny when if I do a club or whatever and there's like a bunch of lads in. It's quite easy to if they're making a trouble or whatever. It's quite easy to get to make them stop. But I think it's quite funny
That's
that all these
interesting.
guys who were just like who clearly just like who clearly bullied me at school were just like totally like talked down to by someone wearing like a child keyboard around his neck like a fucking ice cream van seller at the theatre like. I think it's quite funny. I think it goes
That is
goes
really
to show
funny.
how far your like confidence and demeanor can take you. That I can like talk down to people whilst
How,
just by pretending to be.
yeah. How much work did it take kind of crafting that sort of high status persona, or how kind of quickly did it come to you?
I think it's just like it's one of those things of like everyone says that thing about finding your voice or whatever it is.
Hmm.
I think it purely comes down to like it's just funnier that if I just say it deadpan. Like I think for the
Yeah.
first few years of comedy I was doing it like not maybe the first few like first 2 years I was doing it definitely as myself and
Hmm.
just not really making an effort to be like just selling jokes because I think you're proud like that. You're like, well, I'm funny, so you just take it as it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And I think that as soon as I started doing it deadpan, um, the jokes just work better, and also because I think of comedy as like if you think of it as I think of it like The Simpsons. Like
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah.
struggling to be. If you think of the comedy industry as The Simpsons. Like, there's no point trying to be Homer Simpson or Bart Simpson, the biggest guy, because everyone, you're never going to replace Bart Simpson or Homer Simpson. Like that's
Yeah.
people like those people. But if you ask most people's favorite characters are Professor Frink or Doctor Nick or whatever. So you're like, well, there's no point in trying to be like. It's much funner to be Doctor Nick or whatever, Professor Frink. And it's like there's room for everyone. If you just like, there's no point trying to be the biggest person. You just be like your weird little guy on the side, and there's people will come. People will like that. Like no one talks about it, but like people will come and see it. And I think that.
Oh man, for the rest of the year, I'm going to be trying to think which Simpsons character am I comedically, and really hoping that I don't keep coming back to Hans Moleman.
I think most comedians are that. Our Gil, that guy, just like, oh,
Gil. Oh, came so close to making him laugh, honey.
Oh, Gil's so close. Yeah. Oh, Gil, you're gonna get it next year. I can feel it.
Oh God, this is the most depressing realization.
Yeah. But I think that, I think as soon as I figured that out, and I was like, for example, a good example is like Joe Wilkinson, right? So Joe Wilkinson is like so funny, and he's like on TV all the time, and like you people bring up things like like comedy award nominations or whatever. Not that Joe Wilkinson like can get one or whatever, but like you don't think he even does stand up. Like he kind of does a bit, but I've seen I gig with him before, but like I don't think he even does shows that much. He just is like he just has really invested in his personality, into his comedy persona, and that has just got him so many things. He gets some acting roles because he gets typecast as sort of the weird guy, and I'm not saying you have to be a weird guy or whatever, but like as soon as I created a personality for myself to be on stage, like everything is fit into place, and also it's very easy to write jokes for a character as opposed to yourself, in the sense that it's easy to write, like if you're just writing jokes for yourself with no personality behind it, it's so hard to get people laughing because they have to do so much, because it's basically just doing a joke for what it is. If you create like a persona behind it, then you can just get away with, you just write in that voice, and it's just easy because like, I mean, you've seen me do crowd work and stuff. If I'm just short with people, that normally gets the biggest laugh. Like, but that's because my personality is like on stage is that I'm really short with people, or like really direct. So like anything that I do that is direct is pretty funny. Like it's funnier than if I tore someone apart, or which like people do and stuff. But like if people heckle me and I just look at them and I just say no, then that gets like a huge laugh. Like. But in actual like, it's just if you think about all the big character, like the comedians who are a bit more charactery, it's so easy for that. Like it's so easy to do stand up and even think of jokes. I sometimes think of jokes that would no way work for anyone else, but only would work for me. And I think that's
pretty cool. That's like a superpower.
Yeah, it was pretty shit superpower. But I don't know. Yeah, I don't think Professor X will be.
That's such a good point. Like, I'm trying to think of the times like I've seen you say, your bit about the ice cream man. Kind of any parents saying, "Yeah, fuck the kids, fuck your kids." Like, if I said "fuck your kids" on stage, that would not get a laugh.
Yeah,
because I'm so desperate for everyone to like me. But you're a persona. You're absolutely right. You can get away with that, and that becomes super funny.
Yeah, like I I think it's like not easy. It took a lot of time to. It wasn't easy, but you just have to, take a lot of experiments and things. But like I think that there's like everyone has different strengths. Like you say things like to me like, "Oh, if I did that, it'd be bad." But like if I did something you did, it'd be bad too. Like I think that there's like everyone has different strengths, and like you're such a good host and MC. I could never be like that. Like I could never be a good host like that because I don't have the patience for it. I don't care enough about people. Like I think I wish I had skills like you have. I think it's like we're all like I have something very specific, and I think that every no comedian picks what kind of what
Yeah.
comedy they do. Like, you just got to be like, you're like, I do this, and I wish I did something else.
Yeah. Oh, that's really interesting, mate. That's really good. Speaking of Jericho again, come back to it. Like, do you approach a Jericho gig just like any other? Like, because I guess your persona is so transferable to any room you're in. Because like, I speak to some comedians, and maybe if their stuff is like a little bit more, if there's someone who talks a lot about politics or some kind of intellectual stuff or whatever, sometimes Jericho is a room that suits their style of comedy a bit more than it would like a Glee club or something like that.
Yeah.
But do you take a kind of specific approach to a Jericho show, or is what you do so set that it can kind of work in any room?
Well, I try to keep it the same everywhere, to be honest. I mean, it also, like, um maybe this is stupid, but like, I'm like, if they don't like my act, then I just won't come back. Do you know what I mean? Like, maybe it's not like the
Yeah.
best idea, but because everyone has to, it's like, but like, and also, I was very judgmental about crowds. I used to be. I used to go to like places like, I once did. Remember, I did Norwich Football Club, and I was
Oh
like
wow.
so scared of doing that gig because I was like, they're just gonna hate me, man. Like, I was doing it in the stadium. I was doing it in Norwich Stadium, and I was like,
Oh
they're
my
just gonna
god.
hate this. And I went there, and I just had like a really good time, man. And there's other times where I've gone to like places like Oxford or Cambridge, or like they're kind of like like middle class kind of areas, when you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
well, they'll this is be fine. They kind of they'll like, but it's been terrible. Like, it's been awful, and I just like never ever judge a crowd before I do it. So I pretty much do the
Yeah.
same stuff everywhere, because I just think that you can't read a crowd. Even, sometimes if you're doing a show and a comedian who's on first will come out and go, oh, they're shit or whatever, or like, they like this. Often you go on and you're like, it's just like a vibe that was there before, and it's not even doesn't even ring true. So like,
Yeah.
I always try and I always think that, as well as like, if you just stick to your guns, eventually they'll find it funny. Like, they've got to. Like, I think if you've just, and also I had like a really bad set of gigs in Edinburgh. I did this thing called the Big Value. It's
Right.
just like a terrible set of gigs, and basically I bombed every single day. Really taught me a lot. If you bomb every single day in front of like 100 people, like, you really start to learn like
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to not bomb. So like, I have like specific routines in which I'm like basically roasting myself.
It's
so
so interesting that like stuff can work. You're doing the exact same thing in one room and it kills, and then in another they just don't take it for whatever reason. And there are the mechanics of gigs and how they're set up and everything that I'll never fully understand why something will work in one room and not in another. But you seem to sort of be saying that you've kind of learned something about that, which I'm very jealous that you seem to be part way down the road of at least figuring this thing out.
well, I know that I'm a weird comedian. So like, I don't pretend that, like, if people look at me weird, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm wearing a fucking keyboard. Like, obviously, like, it's pretty weird. Like, no one really wanted this. So like, I'm fully aware of when also people fucking hate musical comedy. Let's be very clear about that. I'm not like, if people fucking hate it. Like, so like, I know when I go on stage, people are gonna just be like, fuck this guy. So I don't really like, and also I think it's, Andy Field said to me when we were gigging. We used to gig a lot, me and Andy. Like, he said that, like, he thinks it's funny that people don't really, if he comes on stage and is doing his best jokes, he thinks it's really funny that no one, if not, so you wouldn't find it funny, because it's just like, it's like, what could you be thinking? Like, what's the conversation on the way home when you go, that guy, like, what was he doing? And it's like, I think it's so. I think it's. I always think, yeah, like, when people are going home, like, what are they talking about? They're like, he really like thought he was funny, and he wasn't at all. I think it's so funny to specifically go to a comedy night and like not invest in any of the jokes. or like not invest in a comedian. I think it's kind of funny, but yeah, I don't pretend that I've sussed it all out, but like I haven't felt guilty about doing badly at a gig for about 2 years now.
Like, well, then that's a pretty good rate of return.
Yeah, like if I do badly, I know that was just like the problem is they didn't find me funny, and that's okay. And like, I think that a lot, I think if you're not funny and you're a comedian, you can be like, oh man, like what's the point? It's like, well, like it's impossible for everyone to find you funny, and if you don't have a good night, like sometimes it's just the way it is. Like people don't find you funny, and I think that after a while you're just like, oh, that's just what people. And like you got to think there's other comedians there and it's embarrassing or whatever. But and then like some people just don't find you funny, and that's okay. Like you don't have to. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine.
Again, this Zen approach, mate, it's inspiring to me. Like, I think I'm going to listen back to this and try to take a leaf out of Huge's book. Right, mate, I wish we could keep this up, but we've got to go to a little message now from our brilliant charity partner, Oxfordshire Mind. Here they are.
Oxford Safe Haven is open on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday and Monday evening from 6pm till 10pm. The phones are open from 5 and the last booking is at 9pm. To refer yourself to Oxford Safe Haven, just give us a call on 01865 903037.
All right, Huge, it's time for pressing questions where all the warmth goes out the window, and instead I ask you a series of uncomfortably difficult questions that you couldn't reasonably be expected to have the answers to. All I need from you are some honest answers. Does that sound okay to you?
I mean, no. I mean, like, can I say no? I mean, is it often that
I guess we could just finish the podcast now, then.
I mean, you said to me, I'm going to ask you some difficult questions, and I've said that'd be uncomfortable for me.
And you've said no.
And then,
I respect your honesty.
I'll do it, but just know that I won't enjoy it. But then again, also know that I've not enjoyed anything for about 5 years, so don't feel like it's.
So it's not personal.
Yeah, it's just like I just don't enjoy that much. If it was like if you were like, I'm going to offer you absolute silence, maybe I'd be like, okay, well then. We'll see if I've liked this in the past.
Oh, maybe that's something we should bring in. And now here's the mindfulness moment. Where for 10 minutes we just sit and are stuck with our own thoughts. I think if we weren't in lockdown, that might be more appealing. But all of us have been trapped inside our heads for so long. I feel it would be kinder for me to distract you with stupid questions.
I feel like it should be longer. I feel like lockdown hasn't gone on long enough. I feel like it really should get to me. It should be 2025 before we all crawl out of our houses like vampires in the sun, just shriveled up.
It definitely suits some people, and I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, you seem to be okay with it.
Yeah, I am. I'm fine with it.
I'm looking forward to leaving the house. I think my wife is probably the person in the country most excited about lockdown ending, so she can get away from me.
Lucky for me, no one likes me.
All right, Huge. I'm going to ask you a pressing question now.
Okay.
Question 1. What's the best episode of The Simpsons?
The best episode of The Simpsons? Gil's episode. There's an episode where Gil is, I don't know what the name of the episode is, but he's in the episode a lot. Gil is my favourite character, by the way. So
it's the one where he moves in with The Simpsons, is that right?
I think so. There's one where he's heavily in it, and I was really enjoying it.
Yeah.
I was enjoying every moment. Because every time Gil turns up in The Simpsons, it's like the best moment of the episode. So the Gil episode, whatever the episode that was.
That's a very good one. I find Gil his sadness is a little too real for me.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if I just relate to him a little too much, but yeah, you embrace the awkwardness.
Yes, Homer's like, I'm going to work in the circus, and then McGill's like, and my whole family's left me. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That sounds like that's the real Simpsons. That's like all families. It's like that's 50%. That's 50%.
Oh man, I'm really gonna be thinking about this whole which comedian from The Simpsons, or like which Simpsons character is your comedy like.
For sure.
It's gonna haunt me, Hugh. It's gonna absolutely haunt me. Hugh, your next pressing question is: if you were put in witness protection and you could choose a life for yourself, what would it be?
I'd be a chef. I'd be a chef because you don't
Ooh.
really have to go outside as a chef. You're only seen by like 5 people a day. Well, I don't know how many people in the kitchen that there are, but like you're only seen by like that amount of staff. You work all day. Also, I like eating food and cooking. So I think if I wasn't a comedian, I'd be a chef anyway. So I definitely like relocate to like go be in a restaurant. I think that'd be cool. And you don't have
That
to.
is smart.
Is the answer meant to be like, what's the way to avoid detection from the people that are hunting you down? Or is it like, if you could do, is it more the question like, what would you do if you could do anything? Or is it more like, how do you avoid being killed by the people who you wronged? Like,
I think if that wasn't the question before, that's what the question is now.
okay, cool. So to avoid, you know what, the people that I framed could be in the restaurant and not even know I was there. So there we are.
That's a superb answer. Well, huge. This lends itself very nicely to the next pressing question. What's your favorite recipe to cook?
Favorite recipe to cook? You know what? I cook a lot of stuff. I love it. But the best thing you can cook is a really good spaghetti and meatballs. There's nothing better than having a massive bowl of spaghetti and meatballs. I also like, well, I guess I like cooking a katsu curry as well. Because if you go to anywhere for a katsu curry, you know very well they'll stinge on that sauce. You cook the sauce yourself.
Oh yeah.
You can drench yourself in sauce, mate. You can put it directly onto your bare chest, and you can do whatever you
You
want.
suddenly become the serving platter for your own food.
Oh yeah, I don't need a plate. I put all the sauce on my body, and then I go upside down like a bat, and it just drips into my mouth.
With your meatballs, do you do anything? Have you got a little secret ingredient
No, I
that you
think
put in your
I
meatballs?
think it's just a classic. I think it's just a classic dish. I like to. So if the tomato sauce, if you like get the olive, you starting, you put olive oil and you put loads of basil leaves in that like hole, and you take it out, and
Mm.
then the oil becomes like basil oil stuff, and then
Oh
you don't have to
yeah.
chop up basil later and put it in because it's like weird to chew through that. So like that's my top tip for a
Oh,
good spaghetti and meatballs is you put basil in the oil before you put onions and stuff in it.
smart.
Yeah, good stuff.
There we go.
Yeah.
People, they came for the interesting comedy chat. They're going away with fine Italian recipes. This
Yeah.
is win-win. Huge. Do you think you'd ever walk on hot coals?
Um, for what, for fun?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, right. Go on then. I mean, yeah, I guess so. If there's nothing else to do, then sure, I'll do.
Yeah.
I'll do it. Oh, plus also with comedians, you're like, could this be a show? You're like, I think at this point, I have so little going on in my life that I'd be like, maybe if I like hurt myself so badly, maybe that would be interesting to talk about.
There's your sad ending for Edinburgh 2021.
Yeah. Walk across the hot coals. I think so. I mean, people do it and have positive experiences with it, so there can't be a lie. So yeah, I probably would walk through coals.
That's very trusting of you. I'm very cynical of those people, but I like that you're open to it.
Well, I guess so. I mean, if you'd walk through coals and it was really bad, would you then make up things and be like, actually, it was actually really freeing for me? Or would you be like, that was a big waste of time. I couldn't I couldn't stand up for like 5 weeks. Like I don't know. For me, I would definitely be like, that was a big waste of time and I deserve everything that comes to me. But like, I don't know whether people are like that.
All right, huge. What is my deepest, darkest secret, do you think?
Your one,
Yeah.
you don't have a wife, I guess. Like when you mentioned her, I'm like, but we've never seen her before. Like I've like been around you like quite a lot. And at no point have you ever showed me a photo of her. She's never come to the gigs, which I'm like, actually, that's more realistic that you'd have a wife that she wouldn't come. But, if she came all the time and be like, I don't think this is long term.
He's paying someone to pretend to be his wife. Yeah.
She's in for the short run. for sure. This isn't a commitment. Yeah, I guess it's your wife, isn't it? Because it's a sort of thing that I wouldn't be surprised by in terms of like just the current climate of things. Like, there's always comedians now who are just like, oh, like I'm like, there's actually like the devil inside of me, and you're like, oh god, I thought you were cool. Like, no, I'm actually possessed by Satan, and I like, like, I'm awful to everyone. You're like, oh god. So
I'm
like,
so glad that that wasn't the guess for me, that I think you may have Satan living inside of you.
yeah, I think yeah, I think that you are Satan incarnate operating. No, I think that like if you didn't have a wife,
Yeah.
I think that's a deep secret, but it's something that I would have seen coming for sure.
I
It's nothing about you. It's just that I've just seen no evidence of her.
No, I think that's an entirely reasonable assumption. I mean, none of the podcast listeners really for sure know. Not even my wife, if she's listening to this.
I mean,
This could all be some kind of weird Charlie Kaufman movie where she finds out while listening to this podcast that she doesn't exist.
yeah, for sure, yeah. And then she just
Huge.
She just melts away now. Maybe.
Huge. Who do you think would win a race around the world between you and Jericho Comedy's Alex Farrow?
Alex Farrow, 100%, 100%.
Why do you say that?
He's just I think he's probably just more athletic than I am, and that's like between
He
two.
does cycle a
I
lot.
think that's between two thin comedians who look like they haven't eaten in about 2 months. I think that Alex Farrow also, he has determination. He's built the empire. I mean, I should say empire, but I mean, it's not an empire. It's not.
We'll take it. We'll
Okay,
take it.
cool.
Let's call it an empire.
Jericho Comedy is very successful. He's built it. I think that he is. I don't have any, even though I'm successful. I'm at the end of the day quite a lazy person. I think that he is the. He could run. Also, he's a better person than I am in terms of he could ask. He could ask for favors. People would give him water. If I wanted water, I can't imagine myself asking for it away that anyone would give me any. You know what I mean? Alex Farrow is like, you see him running, he'd be like, I'm gonna get that man some water.
It sounds like he's got all the deck stacked against you there. It's a bit unfair. Why isn't the world a kinder place to very serious deadpan people?
Exactly.
Really, it's society's fault that Alex would win this race. It's not your fault.
I say compliments all the time, and people are like, think I'm just like having a go. Like, I'll be like, someone like at Jericho, it's happened. Like, I feel like someone's come off, and I've been like, "You've got great jokes, man. I really enjoy those jokes." And they're like, well, "Fuck you, you fucking having a go?" Like, no, like I like your jokes. They're really good. Like, I wish I had those jokes.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum to that, but I have the same thing where I sometimes say things with such enthusiasm that people think I'm taking the piss.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's got to be like a middle ground between, we need to find someone who can give people compliments on our behalf.
Yeah, but do you compliment people you don't? Do you compliment people that you shouldn't compliment though? Like, do you ever go to people and you're like, that was great, and then you actually in your head you're like, that like sucks a big bag of dicks. Because that's the problem. Like, I won't say
absolutely no comment, of course.
I'm not going to be like, that was great if it was bad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Do you just kind of like, are you checking your phone when they come off stage? Is that like, how do you avoid having to give
I'll just be like, that was really bad and you should be ashamed.
I really want to see that. I'm also so relieved that I've not been on the receiving end of one of those.
It's happened to Farrow many times. I've been like, you said you were here to host a comedy show. All I can see is a man struggle to say sentences. I've seen a lot of talking about teaching. Maybe you should have just stayed in the school, is what I say. Can you imagine?
That would be amazing. Huge.
Where's my free toastie?
Huge. What's the best Halloween costume you've ever had?
Easy. I went as the Pixar lamp.
Oh, that is brilliant.
It was so good, and also you you hop everywhere, it's tiring. But I thought that maybe this was back in my university days where things like outfit parties were very important. I thought this was sort of thing that could maybe find me a lady, a partner, and it didn't. But the costume was good. The costume was good, and I had like my feet were the base, so I like made shoes that were like the bottom of a lamp, so like semicircle shoes.
This is outrageous.
And then I created a card helmet that was the top of the lamp, and I had a T-shirt with the ball on it that he stands on, and it said missing at the top. And yeah, it was a great outfit, and I got a lot of compliments that I liked. I mean, no one followed through, but you know, I was an incel, so remember.
I never thought of the Pixar lamp as an incel before.
Yeah, I was a big incel back then. I was like I've earned this. No, I wasn't like that. I was okay.
Huge. Final question. If you were offered eternal life, would you take it?
Yeah, 100%.
Would you?
100%.
Oh, wow. No hesitation at all.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess
I've actually
eternal life probably wouldn't last too much longer the way things are going anyway.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's going to be lonely after the next year after everyone's died. But yeah, I think it would be fun. It would be fun to, you know, I mean, between me and you, we'll probably never have a flying car. I thought that would maybe happen, but I'm pretty certain that won't happen. Like, in terms of like normalizing it, so it's like air traffic. Like, I want to see that, man.
Yeah, or like by the time they are a thing, we'll be at an age where we sort of have to apply for our license again.
Yeah.
And ageism might kick in, and we just might not be given
Yeah,
one.
they'll probably be like, your eyesight's getting bad. I'll be like, no, I'm immortal. They're like, oh, we should probably... That's the first thing I think we should talk about. But I think in terms of like, in Lord of the Rings, for example, Arwen, she's plagued because everyone she loves will die eventually, including her own kids, and she'll live on forever. That's something that's worth talking about. And can I say, I would love to watch my own kids die.
If we're making a trailer for this episode, I think we just found our clip.
Yeah. Took such a sharp turn there. I think, yeah, I don't know. It would be pretty sad to have everyone you know die. But
pretty sad, yeah.
I mean, but then again, if you just keep making friends, it's going to be cool eventually. Like, if you just keep making a new generation, you feel like, okay, well, like in the calendar, like you have an alarm where you're like, oh, it's time to start making friends with 23-year-olds. And then it's like, then you got like a new generation of like friends for that year. So when your like 24-year-old friends die, you're like, well, I can be comforted at least with my 23-year-old friends. I don't know. And also in this, you staying the same age, or are you just getting? Do you end up looking like Benjamin?
Oh, that's a good question. I read a Matt Haig book about a character who like only aged 1 year every. It was something mad like every 40 years or something.
Oh, really?
He became a year older. So this guy, like, he was in his 40s, but he'd lived for sort of 600 years or something. That maths probably doesn't check out, but
also you'd feel
some kind of arrangement like that.
You'd feel weird about going with someone even in your age range, because you'd be like, I'm probably this makes me a bit of a pedo technically. In terms of how long I've
it's all relative, I guess. If I'm 600 years old, being with a 30-year-old woman is a bit creepy, I suppose.
Me and my brother were talking recently, and he told me the plot for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button starring Brad Pitt. And I don't think I've ever known about this, but I was like,
oh yeah,
I laughed so hard. Like, that's the funniest thing I've heard in a while. He was like, yes, the film's about like this guy, and he gets older as he gets younger as he gets older. And I was like, and then what happens? He's like, no, that's the film. I was like, what? The whole thing? And he's like, yeah. And he's like in a relationship with like Kate Blanchett. and she's like a baby at the end. She's like going out with a kid, and I was like in hysterics. I was like, what? And it was like she's going out with like a child Brad Pitt, and I was like, so wait, is he like an old man but like a child? And then as he grows older, is he like a 6'1" like kid? And they're still going out, and he's like, I don't really know, I can't remember. And I was like, if that's the movie, that's the best movie of all time. Brad Pitt as a child, but the height of Brad Pitt going out with Kate Blanchett, who's probably acting her ass off at this point. I just think that's I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my whole life.
Is this not something you want to see for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the chance to yet. I'm so busy doing absolutely nothing. But I think I want to watch it now. And I think
the worry is that it would never live up to your expectations of it.
Maybe not. I heard David Fincher directs it, who's apparently quite serious about filmmaking. So I think it's funny. It'd be funny to see him try and make that not completely hilarious. Like, because am I the only person that's just like?
You think it's more of like an Eddie Murphy comedy where he should play all the parts?
100%. Like, he plays himself as a child, so he's like, they superimpose his head onto like a baby's body in like a high chair. And he's like, I'm Benjamin Button.
I really want to see this huge Davies remake now.
That's the sort of anything Eddie Murphy would have been like, I wish he'd seen the trailer and been like, such a good idea. Like, I can't believe I haven't thought of that.
Have you seen this? It kind of sounds like your treatment of Benjamin Button is like the opposite to what's happening with Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Have you seen this?
Oh, what? No, what's happening?
They're making like a gritty remake of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air where it's not a comedy and this kid gets sent away because he got into a fight with some other kids on a basketball court and has to go live with wealthy relatives in Bel-Air.
I mean,
but it's not funny.
I mean,
I don't understand it, Huge. I just don't understand.
The premises are pretty good. I mean, the premise is, it's difficult to feel sad about the premise, to be like, I had a fight at a basketball court and then I became a millionaire. It's like, I'd love to. The amount of times on the football field where someone called me a nasty name or whatever. Imagine if I was like, they were like, well, you're going to move to LA to live in a mansion with a butler called Jeffrey. Be like, what? Sick. There's no way you could make that sad. I guess he doesn't have a dad. I guess they could probably.
Oh yeah, that'll be hammed up quite.
You know what happens when I'm feeling sad about not having a dad? I get my butler to get me ice cream. Remember that?
That would be a surprisingly good cure for that sadness. Just ice cream on tap. We're having a great time entertaining audiences in some new ways this summer. Drive-in gigs, outdoor gigs, online gigs, gigs on punts. But nothing is quite like being back at our lovely indoor venues like the Jericho Cafe or Common Ground, putting on live comedy for audiences indoors. But we can try to transport you back to those gigs. So sit back, grab yourself a drink, close your eyes, and enjoy a set from... Sorry, how do I pronounce this? Connor McReynolds? Reynolds? Anyway, sit back and enjoy a set from Connor McReynolds, recorded live at Jericho Comedy.
What is going on with these gigs? Listen, we've got one more act for this half. Are you excited? Yeah, well, build a nice round of applause. Put it up. And welcome to the stage, Connor McReynolds!
Hello. So I was on the golf course earlier and I told a wickedly funny joke and all the other CEOs were like, man, you're hilarious. Long story short, I closed the big business deal and after this gig, I'm taking my jack to my beach house in Maui. Huh? Yeah! This guy gets it. This guy fucking gets it. Yeah! All right. So I read a thing earlier that said people find confidence attractive. But I think I've misjudged it. Fuck. I'm sorry, guys. That was just a lot of big talk. Actually, it wasn't true. Tell you what, I'm sorry. We're just going to start this again. Okay. I'm sorry. Hey. Hello. My name's Connor. That is true, by the way. I wouldn't lie about that. No more lies. My name's Connor, and I'm an Irish person. Sorry, no, too confident. Yeah, I'm an Irish person, but I'm a bad Irish person. Not in like a militant 1990s sense. I mean I'm a bad Irish person. Like I'm bad at being Irish. For example, like history. History is hugely important to like Irish identity, and I don't really know my country's history. I mean, like all Irish children, I was raised to hate England. But I've never fully understood why. Like I get the headline, you stole our country. But you gave most of it back. If a bully steals your lunch money but gives you enough back for a bag of Monster Munch, is it even really bullying? So I don't know our history, I don't know our language either. Do we have any Irish people in?
Yeah.
Oh, well, hello Irish person, fantastic. Do you speak the language?
No.
You're also a terrible Irish person, that's fantastic. I feel less bad about myself. I mean, I know a few of the basics, like how to say hello. Can you say hello in Irish? No? Oh no, that means something else, but I don't know. Hello in Irish is Gia Ditch. Gia Ditch means hello, and that literally means God be with you. And the response to that is Gia is Muradich, means God and Mary be with you. I don't know if you guys know this about Irish people. We really like God in a big way. But my advice to you would just be, just don't say hello to anyone in Irish. You're just going to get sucked into this exhausting, never-ending game of biblical one-upsmanship. Liam, God be with you. Oh, Seamus, God and Mary be with you. Aye, well, God, Mary, and the wee baby Jesus be with you. All right. God, Mary, the wee baby Jesus, and Joseph of Arimathea be with you. Right, well, God, Mary, the wee baby Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea, and the apostles be with you. Well, you can't just say the apostles, you have to name them. Ah, fuck. All right. God, Mary, the wee baby Jesus, Joseph of Arimathea, Andrew, Bartholomew, James, John, Judas, Matthew, Peter, Philip, Simon, and Thomas be with you. And so on and so on. Until eventually it's just time to go to bed. We get very little done in a day. You get up for work in the morning and you just hope and pray that you don't run into someone you know, because you've got shit to do that day. Now, some of you may be questioning the accuracy of the list of that of the apostles. Andrew, Bartholomew, James, John, Judas, Matthew, Peter, Philip, Simon, Thomas. They're all there. It definitely sounds like I phoned a couple in, though, because there were definitely some of the names said twice. Jesus, very much like Noah, he just liked pears. So there were two Jameses. At the very beginning, there were two Simons as well. When Jesus was first, auditioning? I don't know what the policy was. I assume it was like some early form of Israeli reality TV, like Cross Factor or Dancing on Christ. I don't know. But whatever it was, Jesus meets the first Simon, And Simon is very clear with him. He's like, "Hey, Jesus, nice to meet you. My name is Simon." Pretty clear. Jesus says, "No, I don't like that for you. I'm going to call you Peter." And Simon's like, "Oh, no, man, no. I already have a name. It's Simon." And Jesus was just like, classic Peter. And that was just it for eternity. We still call him Peter now. Jesus just gaslighted this poor man into believing that he was called Peter. Is it any wonder Peter denied Christ so many times toward the end? Do you know who Jesus is? I don't even know who the fuck I am! Poor guy.
Right, huge. You're a pretty cool customer, but I want to put that to the test in a game called What If. I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario, and I want to know how you'd respond in real life. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds again the same as before. I'd rather not, but here we are. No, not just. I'm looking forward to it.
This is refreshing honesty. It's what this podcast needed. Enough of this faux enthusiasm for what is essentially just time-wasting
I would
horseshit.
say
You could be
that-
watching Benjamin Button right now.
Yeah, it's more the fact that you whenever we meet, you always ask me this in person anyway. This sort of
All right,
conversation we
huge.
have.
Here's the scenario that I
Yeah.
want to give to you. You're sat at home. You finished the Jericho Comedy Podcast. You've just finished recording it. You've had a wonderful time. You're messaging all your friends about how enthusiastic you feel about it. And suddenly you begin to feel this kind of like tingling lightness throughout your body. And you take a step forward to go get a glass of water. And both your feet lift off the ground. And before you know it, you realize that you can suddenly fly. I mean, first thoughts on discovering that you can now fly, huge.
I mean, I'm still thinking about how thirsty I am, or is it like a? I'm like, actually, quite. If you're really thirsty and you want to get water, and you can't because you're flying, you're like, it is quite annoying initially because you. But yeah, flying. I'd love to fly, man. That'd be so. I mean, my first thoughts would be probably like I'd probably throw out my fingers like and go Calabunga. But
where would be the first place you would want to fly to?
am I flying like Superman or am I like floating? Or is it like slower than walking? Because I'm just take an Uber.
Let's say it's about. Let's say you can go at 30 miles per hour.
Oh, great! I mean that's good because also I won't get done by a speed camera. I guess I would go. I'd probably go really high. Firstly, I think I'd just go as high as I could. And
would you not be worried about going super high in case the ability left as soon as it arrived, and then you're just a man in the sky who can't fly? And that's historically usually gone quite badly.
Well, you can survive it. I mean, with luck, if you aim for a bush or a tree, often that can break your fall, and you can actually survive that. You know, you'll be paralyzed, but you know you'll still have a life that you're able to say goodbye to your family.
And you'll have the stories.
But yeah, flying will be sick. No, I think maybe I wouldn't go as high. Maybe I would just go freak out my enemies. You know what I'm saying? Just be
I like that.
Would people say you were like Christ or something?
There would probably be some religious people who would think that you were.
People be so annoyed when they find out that Christ is Asian. They'd be like, "That's so annoying." He's like nothing like the pictures.
Would you discourage those who thought that you were some kind of new savior, or would you welcome that kind of adulation?
I want to be a comedian, so I think that I'd probably just end up doing stand-up. They'd be like, "But you should probably use this for like to help people." And I'm like, let's do this and make everyone's necks hurt more by being even higher. You know, when you sit at the front row and your like neck goes, I'd be like, everyone will have that.
You're only going to perform in the sky now.
That'd be so cool to do a stand-up gig, but you could just fly around.
That
I mean, I
would be
say
very
that
cool.
you'd have to really think hard to try and make that like a funny thing. I don't know.
It would make, yeah, you'd have to have some kind of like Peter Pan opener or something.
It would be good for traffic, I'd say. Like you'd be able to get everywhere
Yep.
through London pretty quickly.
And if you were ever late for a gig again, like that is totally on you.
100%. Like, I should have just left like 5 hours early when I should. Like, sorry, I couldn't make this gig in like Manchester. I should have left at 7 a.m. But I think I think what's odd about it is because I don't think my life would change that much. I think I would just carry on doing comedy. I think people would be quite upset about that.
Yeah.
I probably have a nifty joke about airplane food. I'd be like...
Excellent. I really want you to write this set just in case this ability comes to you, and then you've got it in your back pocket.
That's the sort of
Come
show
to Jericho Comedy with it.
That's the sort of show. Because the last show I did was all about like it was called The Car Park, but it was all about a musical that I'd written for a car park. But I hadn't got enough money. Like I hadn't been given a car park as a venue, so that the show I couldn't do the show. But it'd be fun to do a whole stand-up show being like, I
really thought I'd be able to fly by now.
Yeah, like I've been working hard on it all year, and my routines were going to be all about how I was being able to fly. So you're just going to have to like put up with the jokes about me flying, and just like ignore the fact that I'm not like flying. I guess but that's the sort of thing that I would do. Yeah, I guess.
I love this Edinburgh 2021.
Like for
Flying
like,
Man.
I fully had a show just about being in a car park.
So there is literally no reason why you wouldn't write this show about how you can fly.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Huge, do you think you would still want the ability if it meant that you had to grow huge wings out of your back?
Even cooler, man. I would definitely do that. I don't think...
So if you had a choice between just looking like you currently do or having big-ass wings, you'd choose the wings.
The amount of people trying to experiment with me would be like so much attention, you know what I mean?
It would be off the hook.
Off the hook. Crazy.
But you could fly away from them though. If you didn't want them poking and prodding at you with needles and test tubes and stuff, you could be like, I'm out of here.
Yeah. Just run away from all problems. That's like the equivalent of being like, if you have like legs, you could just like, if anyone was like asking for like money or stuff, you just like run away. Like, yeah, 100%. You kind of fly away from all your problems.
That's a very sobering realization.
Yeah, you just fly out of there. Like, you can't. Not from the government, Connor.
Do you think you would still like keep your name, or do you think you would want to change your name to really highlight that you're the guy who can fly?
I think people, maybe not. Maybe I would start wearing different clothes.
Oh, yeah. What do you think's good flying attire?
Probably what cyclists wear. It'd be one of those. It'd be really annoying because then people would be like, "It's so cool that he flies," but then they'd be like, "It's really not cool the way he wears so much cycling gear." Really,
the way we can really see his package.
Really dislike that about him. He wears that helmet that's too thin. Like he's going at most 30 miles per hour, and he's wearing like sunglasses that like they're like for wind resistance. Like the helmet's all pointy to like reduce drag. He's not going that fast. I'd be like, I'm a sky cyclist, and everyone would be like, "Oh God, you're awful." And I'd be like, "Yeah." It'd be like, but at the same time, it's incredible that he's got an incredible skill, but he's so irritating. So irritating. Yeah. And I have like a little water bottle under it, I'd be like swigging it and be like, it's important to keep hydrated. I say like that all the time. People are like, oh, it's so annoying. So yeah, just gonna like, it's just good to get some exercise, you know. It's just like, I just like to feel like a deep burn deep in my thigh and be like, oh God, he's awful. And that's how I balance it out, I think. You know, it's good to not have everyone on your side.
That sounds perfect. I really love about this that you've taken what could have just been quite simply a sort of relatively straightforward positive. I like that you've inserted some self-made problems into that. It's like, oh, and when everybody inevitably hates me because I do this.
Even on talk shows, I'd be wearing the gear. I'd be like, just in case I need to get anywhere faster. And then the talk show, like Jonathan Ross would be like, in his head, he'd be like, yeah, but you wouldn't, I mean, it's not going to get you there any faster, is it? And I'd be like, it's just to get me there faster. Keep hydrated. And then I do like a thumbs up to the camera. Everybody be like, oh, it's so annoying. Fuck, I hate him so much. But I can fly, so it's kind of
I
cool.
really, really want to see this now. If anybody's listening to the podcast and has any leads on human flight, please do get in touch with us, because I think Huge would be the perfect patient X for this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'd pick me.
As would I. I think anybody listening to this would be a fool not to.
You know, in Spider-Man, how
Hugh-
they always have like the things when there's always scientists that get it wrong when they turn into baddies. They're like, oh, I tried the
Oh,
serum
yeah.
out myself and it went bad. I'd be like, yeah, 100%. Like, why wouldn't you give a strength serum to someone else? You would give someone else a flight suit to test? 100%. They're like, oh, you can't what is it, like, associate with any of these villains. They're like too different. It's like 100% you would give yourself too much strength. Of course you would. Anyway,
I'm optimistic that, talking about this though, you don't seem to want your life to change too much, with the exception of you'd now wear more lycra.
yeah.
And that's fine. But yeah, I don't think that you would suddenly overnight become a supervillain just because you've learned how to fly. Just kind of crimes against fashion,
You'd be like,
not against
I
anything else.
wanted to be strong, so I am. And everyone would be like, I respect that.
And it's good enough just for me to know that I am that. And you don't need to impose it on everyone else.
Yeah, I'm just really strong. I'm
But you do you.
still going to work in the restaurant. I'm just going to carry more plates. You know what I'm saying?
Huge. Before we go, how can our lovely listeners stay in touch with all things Huge Davies? You mentioned some YouTube channels earlier. Your Twitter. Where can we find all those details?
Yeah, so if you just type in Huge Davies into Google, things like Instagram will come up. Things like my Twitter will come up.
Awesome.
Things that go onto YouTube, and you type into Huge Davies, you can see all my stand-up clips, all off the telly and that sort of thing.
Awesome.
It's crazy. They let me on.
It is crazy. I watched them all earlier and very much enjoyed them.
Oh, thanks, man.
They were super fun.
Yeah.
Your roast battle with Ed, I meant to ask you about this earlier, but your roast battle with Ed Knight was absolutely amazing. Like, you did it all musically. How difficult was that?
Oh, it was really difficult because I had to write songs and that, but because the lawyers and stuff, you've really got to submit your jokes real early, and because you can't say anything offensive, because they're afraid of complaints. But I was quite odd on the roast battle to have to be like, you can't. I couldn't say a lot of things basically about Ed, which is like, I wasn't happy with some of the jokes in there because they were like versions of jokes I'd written, but like they'd vanillaed them kind of up. Like I'm not like a crazy like offensive comedian, but if I'm doing roast battle, I'm like, well, then this is where like it should
offend this person.
Yeah, like so in terms of like, I was still writing jokes like 2 days before the show, so like all the jokes that I was doing were really like new, and I didn't know if they were funny or not because I don't basically just I've given them to the lawyers to approve, and the lawyers aren't going to be like, legally that's fine, and also maybe chuckle. Like they're like, it's fine. So like I don't even know whether they're funny or not, and I'm doing them, you know, in a really full room in the Brixton Electric in front of like Jimmy and Catherine, who I've never met before.
Yeah.
And it's like recorded for TV. Like it's like you can only do it once. So like it was pretty nerve wracking. I remember watching it back with I watched it with my brother, and I seemed to be like pretty calm. But I was
I thought it went amazingly.
I was cacking myself, Connor.
Well, you can check that out on YouTube. We'll post the links for all those things in the episode description. And Huge, I really hope that we get to see you at Jericho Comedy soon. We're running all these shows during the summer, like drive-ins and stuff. So really, really hope we can get you along to one of those.
Well, I asked to be in one, and Farrow said that I wasn't quite good enough.
That is fucking typical of Alex Farrow. He's so cruel to acts.
I was like, I'm surprised he thought that. I mean, you always ask me the other ones, and he was like, you're not quite good enough for this.
I'll have a word. With him. We'll get you on.
He's also got a very nasty attitude since lockdown has happened, I find.
He's really changed.
It's a lot.
Really, really changed.
I mean, he was cheating before, but it's on a different level now. He sends me dick pics, you know?
That's the takeaway message from this podcast.
Sure. Anyone listening, Alex Farrow would never cheat. He would never cheat. Now I've said it like loads of times and make it sound as if there's something there. Like
this is great. This is like what you were saying earlier, where people think you're being sarcastic or disingenuous. Just
yeah, for sure. They're like others. Like people are like, is he cheating? Did he have a girlfriend? We don't know. Let's look into this.
Huge. Thanks so much, mate, for doing this. It's always great fun talking to you, and we will see you. I'll have a word with Alex, and we'll see you at Jericho very soon.
Oh well, if you say so. I've had fun. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, there we go. That was the hilarious Huge Davies. Make sure you check out all of those clips from Huge on YouTube. He is so funny. You'll have a blast watching them. Keep an eye on the Jericho Comedy website for more info on all the shows we're hosting over the summer. We'll be doing more outdoor shows, more drive-in shows, and maybe you might even be able to see us at an indoor venue sometime soon. All the details are at www.jerichocomedy.com, or you can follow us on all the social media. If you're enjoying the podcast, we'd be so grateful if you give us a like, if you shared the podcast, subscribed, all that stuff. We really love making this, and we want to reach as many of our lovely audience members as possible with it, and you can really help with that. You can also check out our other new podcast, The Dinner Party. This week I spoke to Francesca Forrestal, who Jericho Comedy audiences will know as one half of the fabulous Drag Prov Review. It's a really fun chat, so do check that out. Look after yourselves, look out for each other, check out the brilliant Oxfordshire Mind if you need any help or know anyone who needs help. Throw some money their way if you can. We've got a link for fundraising in the episode description. We'll be back with another episode next week, but until then, thanks so much for listening, and bye-bye.